Hello and welcome to the Geek Battle Gaming YouTube channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the announcements from the Evercade Showcase 1. So this has basically been like E3 for Evercade. I'm not sure if Evercade has ever been at E3 in the past, but now that E3 probably isn't ever going to be a thing again, everyone is just doing these Nintendo Directs or State of Plays or whatever you have that you'd call them. And Evercades. Let's have a look at what's going on in the Evercade showcase. So it shows. I'm not going to put like the volume up just because I don't want to like take away from these guys having their video. But let's have a little look at what the announcements were and let's discuss. So they tell us all about how the Evercade has got lots of games, 450 games, more games that are retro than anyone else. And let's see what we get into here. Four stunning console and Amiga games. And I tell you what, I was actually quite excited about this. Delphine Software Cinematic Collection 1. Now, the one game on this which I'm most excited about, because we can see them here, we have Another World, Flashback, Future Wars, and the one that I'm most excited about, Operation Stealth. Like, I literally can't believe this game's getting a re-release. Like, I had this game on the Amiga back in the day, like in the 1990s. It may have even come out in the very late 1980s, but I believe the very early 1990s. And it's a point-and-click game, sort of like Monkey Island or the Indiana Jones game at the time. And I didn't realize this until years later, but it was actually released in the United States as a James Bond game. It was called James Bond The Stealth Affair. So if you didn't know that, there is a James Bond game that is now officially coming to the Evercade, but it just won't have the James Bond moniker. It was a great game, and like years and years later I got it, like, because it was like on an abandonware website for the PC, and I really loved it. That's where I was able to finally complete the game, just because it is one of these annoying old games where you can go wrong at the beginning of the game, and if you go wrong at the beginning of the game, then you can't complete the game later on. I don't know if they're going to have changed that at all, but obviously having Another World on there, Flashback, Future Wars is another point and click adventure. Let's just show a tiny bit of what it's got to show of these games here. So that's Future Wars, and then it shows Operation Stealth, which you can see is a point and click. Oh, we skipped over where it showed like anything of Flashback. So there's Another World, there's Flashback. Now, what was the... I can't remember. There was like one more game that kind of was in that series, which I think was a 3D game on like PS1 era stuff. But I can't remember, to be honest. Oh, there was some interesting notification there where it just said about... Let's have a look. Flashback, blah, 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 blah. It's going to come up here. So it says Amiga ROMs and Workbench... whatever corporation, all rights reserved, furnished under license from Cloanto Corporation, WHD load and all other files, etc., etc. So it's interesting that what they have to do to get the Amiga games to be able to be on the Evercade. But let's continue on, just because, oh yeah, here we're seeing some Flashback. And it kind of reminds me a little bit like Heart of Darkness. I don't know if that was also from these guys, or even a little bit like Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey. It's just that kind of or Prince of Persia, one of these kind of precise 2D platformers that's got very detailed graphics. So what, I even forget which one this is called. So the next one we've got here, this isn't the ones that interest me most. 9 Hidden Gems. So actually, I wouldn't know any of these games anyway. From the arcade to the 1990s, this is Pico Arcade Collection 1. So we get lots of Pico collections. That game in particular really kind of looks like Alien Breed, which is just literally come out on the Amiga collection, which released today or yesterday, since we're technically after midnight. So Pico Arcade Collection 1, and that's got 9 games on it. It's good as well, just because obviously when they showed the Delphine collection, it's 4 games. This is 9 games. And there is the worry with Evercade that games are getting a little bit less and less. So for the fact that it's got slightly more games on some of these collections isn't a bad thing. But there is definitely a trend of less games per collection. So here we see some of the games like beat 'em ups and platform games. I mean, this looks like it'll be quite a fun collection. That tennis game actually looks quite good. It looks like it's a couple of steps away from something like Virtua Tennis. But let's see what we have next. Ooh, it showed Zool. I don't think that's on a collection that we're seeing now. Skip this along. Say about indie games and the different kinds of collections they've got. And next up, what have we got? Are they going to show it? Or is this the Sydney Hunter collection? 4 great new games, including the modern retro franchise, Sydney Hunter. I will be honest, I don't know Sydney Hunter. This looks interesting. Like the thing that kind of that's interesting, where it just shows the box art. Sydney Hunter, the Sacred Tribe, definitely looks like it's got Master System box art. Jester, I don't know at all, and yeah, like I don't know this. I'm not going to pass comment too much. This is just going to be a quick video where I've got what I can comment on. I think it's quite cool that the box art shows literally, if you look here, Sydney Hunter is like dead on the front here because his ribs and spleen and stuff is just visible. We're going to get to the most exciting stuff shortly. So obviously Sydney Hunter, there it's showing whatever it is. I don't know what Mr. Gimmick is. I forget what collection this is. Sunsoft collection. The main one I know from this is Aero the Acrobat because I had it on the Super Nintendo. And I remember that it was all right. Let's see what else it shows. Mr. Gimmick, I don't know. Journey to Silius, I don't know. Like, these will probably all be good games just because I think Aero the Acrobat was quite good. And, like, Sunsoft, it's a name that means something to me, but Blaster Master, I think I know that name, but I don't especially know it. It's interesting that the box art of this kind of goes back to showing, like, one main thing. Whereas, like, I think they were on the right track with the Amiga collections, where it sort of just shows the box art of all games, like, split up like slices on a pizza. So let's see what else we got. So the news. Now, this is interesting. Let's take a look here. We can see that in April, it's interesting that it doesn't show the Indie Heroes collection of having already come out, but in April, the C64 Collection 2, Toaplan Collection 2, and then obviously we've literally just had Pico Collection 3 and Team 17 Amiga Collection 1. And then we're going to be in August, which is quite a wait in between. So even though it's effectively June when these games have just come out, even though I got them a couple of weeks ago. So thank you once again, Funstock, for sending that early. That means that it's all of June, all of July, and then whenever in August. So it's only about 2.5 to 3 months wait. But then we'll get Pico Arcade 1. And I just think going from one Pico release to the next Pico release, you know, I like the Pico releases, but there's still lots of things that we're missing. Sydney Hunter Collection, it looks fun. I'm sure when I find out more about these games, I will care more. Sunsoft Collection 1, that looks like it'll be cool. And the Delphine collection does interest me quite a bit. None of these don't interest me, but I do feel that there's always like a lack of like some big hitters. Okay, so the fact you'll be able to change controls, I think, per game or per collection, you know, they're quite good collections. But then obviously here we have, like, whatever his name is, there's some nipples for you on my channel, the Duke Nukem 3D Duke Nukem collection. I thought this was just one cartridge, and I was like, that's an amazing cartridge. The fact that it's 2 is a little bit disappointing, but I am super pleased that these are on the Evercade at all. So you get Duke Nukem 1 and 2 remastered, which I'll speak about in a second. You get Duke Nukem 3D, and that's one cartridge. And then on the other cartridge, you get Duke Nukem Advance, Duke Nukem Land of the Babes, and Duke Nukem Time to Kill. And I remember that Duke Nukem Time to Kill wasn't super well received. I think we got that at the same time as an N64 one, which I don't think was Land of the Babes. I think that's another PS1 game. So it's a shame that we could potentially get another Duke Nukem collection, but I don't know that there's enough classic Duke Nukem games that we haven't had already. So that Zero Hour, whatever the N64 one was called, they could give us Duke Nukem 64 and the other Duke Nukem N64 game, but it depends whether or not We can even have N64 support, because obviously we don't have a analog stick. Now, obviously, Duke Nukem 3D is the most famous of these games here, and they put it with Duke Nukem 1 and 2 remastered, which it's really cool that Blaze have done that they've remastered the games themselves, and they've made it so that it's in widescreen, and that they've added parallax scrolling and whatever. But I don't think those are games that people are going to really care about so much. Like, Duke Nukem is pretty much known as like a 3D game nowadays, especially a first-person shooter game. So it's a shame that this isn't one collection, but I appreciate having Duke Nukem 3D and then 2 PS1 era games all on one cartridge. Maybe it's too much for an Evercade cartridge. I don't know, just because obviously you can hold an awful lot of data on like SD cards and stuff like that, but I don't know quite what the capacity limit is on an Evercade cartridge. But Duke Nukem, Time to Kill, and Land of the Babes. I don't know if Land of the Babes was slightly better received, but there was definitely less hype after people didn't care about Time to Kill as much. And Duke Nukem Advance, I believe, was well received, and that is back to being a first-person shooter, but obviously it's not going to be up to the standard of Duke Nukem 3D. So it would have been an amazing single cartridge. I still think they are. I'm still really pleased that they're coming to the Evercade at all, but whether or not they are the winning cartridges each individually, I'm not sure. Definitely, if it was all combined as one, I'd say that's like an essential cartridge. It probably is going to be anyway, but the one with Duke Nukem 1 and 2 remastered, it's cool that Blaze have done it, but realistically, that's almost like getting a single game cartridge for Duke Nukem 3D. And I say that with respect, that probably is what it's going to be for most people. And then the other one, Duke Nukem Advanced, Land of the Babes, and Time to Kill, I think probably is going to be the cartridge that you'll get more gameplay time out of. But it depends how good those games are, because I can't remember if I had either of them or any of them back in the day. So, look, there we can see Duke Nukem, smooth scrolling. That's Duke Nukem 3D. And so the other thing they announce here, when we come to it here, is these ones are coming out in November. And I quite like the box art there, how it shows 1 and 2 Advance and 3D, and then Time to Kill, Land of the Babes, Duke Nukem Advance. And it says Duke Nukem Collection 2 and Duke Nukem Collection 1. But I've been saying that these boxes need to have the names of the games on them. So even though the side of the box doesn't, literally the front of the box shows the names of the games really prominently. And so that's a good thing. But then obviously they've showed this, which isn't an official Duke Nukem designed version of the console, of the Evercade VS, but it's packaged with them, and obviously it's inspired by them. I'm just going to take a quick sip here. So that's pretty much going to wrap this up. I think that these are overall it's a pretty good showcase. I think Delphine Software Collection is exciting. I think Flashback and Another World in particular are famous games, and even though they're not as exciting as Operation Stealth for me, they're exciting. Pico have always been quite popular on Evercade. The Sydney Hunter, apparently people have requested it, and they do look like they'll be interesting games, but Duke Nukem is obviously the heavy hitter here. Heavy hitters here. So let us know in the comments what you think, and I'll respond back and we'll chat. And I look forward to covering these games more in the months to come, and we'll see if there are any games that we can sort of give a sneaky preview, just as I have done with other games that we're able to preview early, that's just by playing them on other consoles where I've got them. And yeah, that'll be lots of fun. So do make sure you check out my other recent videos. I've had a bunch of Evercade ones up here about the recent Pico and Team 17 collections. Also for the Atari VCS, Doodle Taxi, and whatever else are on there. There's a bunch of videos gone up recently, so do check them out. Smash that subscribe button. Until next time, ciao for now. Boom. And I'm off the air.